Adventure on Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Now has your mind tied up in the ugly stuff knot. You shed your shame like reptile skin, then you shed
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and our next guest has some pretty cool, a cool new song and a cool tour going on that we're going to talk about. So let's welcome to the show, The Fixer. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Hi, thank you very much for having us.
Oh, my pleasure. And I got to tell you, I really love your description on Instagram because it just totally describes you. Dark, sexy, loud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was listening to your new song, and it's pretty badass. What I like about it is that, you know, it's not like normal metal today that has one sound throughout the whole song. And basically, once you've heard the first 30 seconds, you've heard the whole song, which placates to the track mentality. I think yours is more old school, in my opinion, where it takes you on a journey.
We do have a bit of old school with us. I feel like, well, the Fixer naturally has a lot of varied influences, even outside of metal. But I feel like there is some elements in old school. Like I grew up in the, for reference point, when new metal was very popular. I feel like that to a degree comes through. And I don't know, I guess just writing something that's start to finish the same, like nothing really wrong with that. But if you do every song like that, it as a creator, it I don't know, it doesn't feel as fulfilling. And it's kind of just a challenge to keep a song moving and still keep it cohesive, listenable, and interesting all the way through.
Well, and you made a good point there because, like, as an artist, if you were making the same song over and over again, it wouldn't be fulfilling and be kind of boring and tedious, I would think.
Every day that you get to pick up an instrument, a guitar, and it's never a bad time, but it is the creating interesting songs and not just doing the same thing every time that kind of keeps you motivated to keep doing it. Otherwise, I feel like eventually it would burn out. But the actual activity of playing an instrument, I just feel like it's a fun activity.
If anything, it's kind of like the opposite of what's going on, is that I feel like we have too much potentially variety in our music, and we have in the past struggled to make sure that like an album is cohesive or like a set list has enough of the same sound, just because I feel like we want to play with so many different sounds,
or at least transition between things tastefully. It's but that in itself is actually a fun challenge as a creator to be playing with different sounds and figuring out how unlike things can go together.
Yeah, and I do love your point about it has to be cohesive. To me, that's old school too. Because like we live in this day and age where bands put out singles. So if you put all those singles together on an album, they wouldn't be cohesive. But old school, you bought an album and you listened to the whole album or CD or cassette tape or whatever it was. You just went through and be kind of like, okay, if you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, only one song at a time, it wouldn't make sense.
Yes. And that is actually true with our album, Your Lie, where we did have like an overarching lyrical theme through it, even though we do feel like it jumps a fair bit genre wise and even topic wise, but there is, it does connect each song into a general theme for the album. So we do like creating the album experience still. It's fun to do a single once in a while just because you're not really bound to anything, but there's still something about creating a full experience from start to finish.
No doubt. And to your point, I like when bands put out a single, but then it's not part of the new album because it doesn't fit with the rest of the album. So they put out singles, but
really
then they put out an album. Say that again.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I was just saying, I was thinking that that's exactly what we've been doing with our two singles. It Will End Tonight and Ugly Knots we released because a lot of our music's going in a different direction than our next album. We just didn't think they would fit with, but we still like love the songs, really wanted to give them like a real release and like a real, I don't know, you word it better.
Yeah, we wanted to give them a proper release, and they're great songs to play live, but we do want our next album to have kind of a specific sort of I don't want to make it sound like it's all going to sound the same, because that's not it either. But you do want to have that cohesiveness, and those two songs, they were as good of songs as they were. It didn't really work in a album cohesive sense.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah, and even what you said before, as long as there's something tying the album together, it doesn't have to be the same exact genre every song, in my opinion, because it's kind of, that, to me, that's part of the journey, is it not being exactly the same on every song, just something tying it together. And, you know, it's funny because this all reminded me of a few years back, Slipknot released this really, really good single. And then they released an album that was the same name as the single, but the single was never on the album. And I thought that was kind of wild in one place, but then based on what you were saying before, it made me understand it now. I was like, oh, well, then that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting in the new landscape of how you can release music as an artist, because there is actually a lot more options of how you can present your music now in just with the internet, the way multimedia accompanies your product online. It just kind of changes things, and it does. Rather, I try to not always be old and go against the new way of things being, because it does add some interesting things that you can kind of play off of in the new musical landscape. Even though there's still definitely some stuff that I obviously, knowing that we like to do the album experience, that's a little more old school minded.
I totally agree with that too, because I think you have to be a little bit of both, in my opinion. Like, you can't just be old school and forget about new, because I kind of relate it in radio. Okay. I call the old school radio people that they have WKRP in Cincinnati syndrome, which I don't know if you would get that in Canada, but it was a very popular 70s TV show called WKRP in Cincinnati. And I feel like a lot of the old school terrestrial radio people, they all want to hold on to something that does not exist anymore. And the radio stations are smart, combine a little bit of that old school, but use the new technology and the new school way of doing things.
Yep. Even with the way, I actually do our audio production for our releases. And when I first started, it was right at the beginning of digital when I started learning about audio recording. And the person that mentored me actually made a very specific point before he would show me any of the digital tools. He made me do a few recordings on ADAT tapes.
Right.
Just to know what the process of recording on the old medium before moving in, to see the progression of how it got to where it is now. And I find that very valuable, even just in a mindset of how to approach thinking about things. Being stuck in where things were isn't helpful, but it's also not helpful to not see why it worked in its time. The new school has a lot to offer, but the old school was great for reasons too.
Is that the same person that made me do the same thing with film?
It is the same person.
That's so funny. Yeah, we have a mentor that we didn't connect through in any way, shape, or form. We just happened to be taught by the same person, him audio and me video. And yeah,
That's wild.
I learned how to do all the video stuff on like film first. Like before you touch anything digital, learn how to do it on film first. And I really do appreciate those foundations. I feel like they really shape probably the way we both approach the different forms of media.
Yeah, it just gives you more ideas in your toolbox to work with. It's learning is it's never a bad thing. Even if it's not something you're going to use all the time, just the perspective it gives you is always positive.
I think it's brilliant, actually. And the reason I think so is I think it makes you better at the new school to know the foundation. I kind of equate it to technology nowadays. So I'm somebody, I learned all the programming languages that built the internet and built social media and built computers. And I look at people that have never had that experience, and they think that just technology just works. They don't know what works behind it. And as a perfect example, they all get, like viruses and spyware and all that. I don't even use antivirus or anti-spyware, and I never get either because I understand what to do and what not to do to avoid it.
It is like I do because it's like the idea of moving into a new workplace that has a lot of very like specific systems that have like their little quirks. If you weren't there to see how those quirks got into their system that is operating, it's challenging. And the only way you really get that is if you do look back from where you are necessarily starting, getting a bit of history on where you are. It doesn't have to be into the weeds or anything, but having some sense of the history of why things have landed where they have is always a valuable thing to know.
Yeah, and I think to your point with the audio production specifically, because I know that better than the video production, but I think it really helps to know that in analog there was a wave and there were mids, whereas digital is chop, chop, chop. So by knowing that, I think you're able to create a better sounding digital sound because you know that you have to compensate for that. Whereas I think people that only know the digital, they don't know that there were mids.
I think they just think about, I don't know if that aspect of things always comes to mind for some of the new school people until they've been at it for a really long time.
Right.
And then even if it's not actually knowing, if you've even just worked recording on older like say on tape, you'll just hear the difference if you critically listen long enough.
Yeah,
you'll hear those little subtleties. And it's again the biggest thing I think the enemy that a lot of people face now is just the time, the expectation that life has on us. Life moves really fast to try and get all of the actual hands-on experience to get there. I do sympathize with the newer generation that didn't learn these things just ahead of the internet age, because I'm one of the interesting ones where like I grew up without internet, and then partway through my youth it became very prevalent. So I see the benefits and drawbacks from both ways, and it's to me it's a very cool thing. But I definitely don't envy the battle to get the handle on the hands-on that the new school would be facing.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny because I remember one time I was telling my youngest daughter, I was like, some days I just want to drive down the road, throw my phone, my computer, my iPad out the window and keep driving. She goes, "Who you came, Dad? You're just as addicted as anybody." And she's right, because I'm a techie. But I said to her, "You're absolutely correct, except I do remember a time when I didn't have all this crap. And it was kind of better in some ways. It was my generation, Gen X, built this stuff to make things easier and have more time in our life. And and it actually worked out the opposite.
It in its own way created a little bit of a monster. It's
Right?
it's one of those interesting things where I look back at it, and the access to learning that I've had through a lot of these tools is incredible, but the amount that it sucks you away from real life is, the other side of the sword.
I
Right?
love the idea of like everything just being on your computer and your computer being in your home and no one expecting you to be able to magically do something right now.
But
Right?
like looking at it as a writer, the abilities that we have now with digital production as a tool for creating, I like, just the possibilities, and the more creative you're thinking about how you're using these tools in your writing can be real door openers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it is just like being really critical about how you are using these tools. Are they actually helping you?
Yeah.
Totally. And I also feel like where the advantage is artists like you nowadays can do things on your own to where you have creative control, instead of having record labels and people like that dictating how you should do your art, because they're the only ones that know how to make it. You know how to create it, but they're the only ones that knew how to produce it. And I think it's great that artists can produce their own music now and not have to be subject to that.
So, and this is again coming to the two sides of the sword, because I feel like now a lot of artists have that ability where before maybe it was access to things to fully realize their vision of what they wanted for their music. Now you can realize in a lot of depth with us that use a lot of electronics and synths in our music. Be able to use the new platforms for that part of creating is like, it's endless. Like, it's just so cool how much depth you can get on that aspect of things.
Yeah.
We still like tube amps. We play the tube amps alongside the digitally programmed stuff too. But it's but then again, a lot of artists I feel like have now created a much larger workload for themselves by doing everything. So I think there's also that struggle for a lot of bands, is getting their full project operating on all levels, just because they've just got so many other things that they've started to take on doing themselves, rather than having like a few people that are specializing, that are maybe not necessarily the musicians themselves. I see the benefit in that.
I'm
as
sure
well.
you would. He does a lot.
being a DIY band and having, been really motivated to try and do as much as we can on our own and learn as much as we can, totally see the blessings and curses.
Totally. Same here. And like, you look at the old school DIY bands compared to new school DIY bands. DIY bands now could definitely probably blow away the old ones, because you think of the old school punk bands that were DIY, their sound quality sucked, their instrument quality sucked, but they were doing it all on their own. Whereas nowadays they can make everything just as professional as if they were with somebody professional.
Yeah, the access is a lot better, and the access to the world as well. Like, I don't feel like we would have been able to connect without the globalization of the internet and being able to share our music around the world.
And again, seeing the blessings and curses, because I look back at some of those older recordings, like I was talking about it with our tour mates Technosis, about looking at, say, recordings from like just ahead of when digital recording became a thing. And they're doing all of this stuff in the room. They don't have all those bells and whistles. Right. But there is energy. There's that secret artistic sauce of the performance and stuff that I feel like got the extra attention in those days, that isn't always there. There's definitely still recordings that are doing it, and I feel like my favorite recordings are the people that have been marrying the old school with the new school.
Totally.
And I feel like that's something that we've kind of made like a goal to like try and figure out those things, to not abandon our past and just do new school stuff, and also not be stick in the mud old fogies, and not these new school bands, new school producing approaches, and that like, you know, seeing the benefit that's come from those.
Yeah, and then look at like some of these artists that have become huge just by using TikTok. Like those are artists that probably would have never been heard of before, ever, no matter what, you know? So I think that's the benefit. I'm with you. There's two sides and you got to use both. I think that's even what, like the internet age, you know, that I remember when it's first started and all the internet companies, the .coms are like, oh, brick and mortar is going to go away. It's never going to. And who are the companies that are biggest on the internet now are the ones that combined forces with the brick and mortar, not tried to separate themselves.
Yeah, we are still real humans. We are still living in a real world. Computers and the digital age, they're tools for us navigating the real world, not to become the existence contained in a box.
Totally. Now, you guys are starting a tour tomorrow. My birthday is on the 11th, and you have, I saw on your latest Instagram post about you have a very cool show coming up on my birthday. I wish I could be there for it. Let's talk about the tour and that show right now.
So we're very excited to be kicking it off in well, we've actually done 3 shows in Quebec that were last weekend, that were billed as part of the tour. And then tomorrow is the first day that we pick up with our friends in Technosis for the rest of our dates. And we're playing one of the smaller regional towns, just a few hours out from our hometown of Thunder Bay, called Fort Francis, which is super cool. They've been very good to us in the last couple of years. It's a very small place that doesn't get a lot of touring entertainment, so we're super excited to get into to a region that doesn't get a lot of stuff, let alone something
as different as us,
as different as the Fixer and our tour mates Technosis.
I'm also really excited. This is the first time we're going to go to this particular venue. It's called the Pink Parasol Tea Room. And it is, from the pictures, it is exactly what it sounds like. And I just can't wait to be a goth in that space.
Yep. That'll
be so cool.
Like and our show on the 11th, that will be our first time ever playing in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. We're very excited to be doing what's special about that show is our friends from a rap group, Seven Sinners, from the Paw, Manitoba, are coming out for the show there, and we have a special song that we've collaborated with them that we only get the chance to play twice on tour with them, and that will be one of those shows.
Yeah.
Nice.
I also just love any show that has a dress up theme. I love like we always dress up and we're always doing some elaborate things or like being over the top. And I love when the audience or audience, I guess, the people going to the show can also express themselves and wear something that's really fun for them. And I just love seeing other people's fashion art as well.
We have a spot at home called Definitely Superior Art Gallery that does a couple of like themed multi-arts disciplined events each year, and having played their events over the years with the dress up themes, it's just always so fun to get other people a part of creating art along with the performers. And we're actually playing a show of theirs to wrap up the tour, the Hunger 18, which is their massive Halloween event, and it's nice. I don't even remember how many venues.
It's like There's somewhere between like 9 and 11.
Yeah,
there's always a lot.
And we're very excited to be a part of that show this year on Halloween proper, which is
I love it
for us.
I love it. And you know what I love about what you're saying? This is what I do like about new school that I could care less about old school about. Back in the 80s, we were the worst freaking gatekeepers when it came to metal and punk. It was stupid. And I love that nowadays. Like I go and I do coverage at music festivals all over the US, UK, Europe, and you go and it's just like anybody can be anybody they want there. Like it's like there are no outsiders, there are no freaks. We're all freaks, you know. And like, and it's like everybody can have their own look. You know, back in the 80s, it was like, okay, if you were into this metal, you had to look like this, and if you're into this metal, you had to look like that. And it was like the whole idea of goth and metal was separated. And I'm like, that's kind of stupid, you know. We're all really in the same realm, and people should just be able to express themselves any way they want to express themselves. And that's what's cool about metal today. More. You know,
that was one of the things that always drew me to music in general. Is it's one of the few gathering type events that really does not have borders on who will attend. It's one of the true community builder sort of things that we have left. There's very few things left in the world that I feel like has an element of magic like music and live music.
Yeah. And I think
gatekeeping.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I thank you guys for that, because your generation is what brought metal to be that way, opposed to the assholes in my generation.
but I actually, my experience too, like I saw the gatekeeping in my younger years, but I also think so fondly of the metalheads, you know, when I was, you know, had been in my first band and was really like at all the shows every weekend or all the weekdays, any all ages shows that there were here, I would be out. And then the old guys would every now and then pull us along and pull us on one of their bills and mentored us through, and we're really supportive. So I actually feel very fortunate to have been where I started to see the older generation starting to reach down and embrace that things were moving in a new direction rather than a preservation aspect, because it's like what was going on in the 80s, if it wasn't for you folks in the 80s doing that music, there would be no space for the Fixer to be progressing.
Well,
just
that's
the same as after us. There's, you know, after our generation, it's somebody else is going to have to wave the freak flag.
So progressive.
And what were you going to say about the gatekeepers? What were you get before I rudely interrupted you?
I was just gonna say, like being kind of like goth, but not super goth, and like metal, but not super metal. Like I was really afraid when going out into the world and presenting the way we are, that it was going to be really difficult. And I've been so pleasantly surprised that so many people and venues and places online have been so welcoming to us. It's really so nice. I feel like the community is just so like supportive, and like we just all want to make art together.
Yeah, right? I do feel like there is a hunger for people looking for music that is very authentic, very much putting your heart into music, and you know, putting it all out on the table when you're creating or performing. And you know, we make that a huge importance in the band, and I think a lot of people that can break down preconceived notions about genres or what people's impressions of what we are or aren't.
I love that, because that makes bands unique nowadays, the blending of genres, and instead of you need to just be this. And I also I thank Amy Lee for exactly what you were saying before. Like, she's goth, but she's also not too goth, you know, and like she was exactly who I thought of when you were saying that, because everybody loves her, whether you're a goth or not.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, the life is too short. There are way too many things that are more reasonable to bring you down in life. Just enjoy the music that's out there. Like,
Totally.
Why cheat yourself from the joys you can get from all types of music?
Right, exactly. And I think that's where, I can't speak for Canada, but I think that's where the US is getting smarter, because I think Europe has always kind of been that way. Like, you went to European festivals,
Yeah.
it was always a mixture, which you didn't have here. And now we're starting to have it. Like, I do all the Danny Wimmer festivals here. Just came back from one. And like, we had pop punk, we had goth, we had, metal, we had thrash, we had hardcore, like, we had every kind of, even hip hop, every kind of music there. And we were all on the same team. That's key.
No, that's exactly what I love about music. That border breaking thing. And it's, there's, I'm not going to go up and do rap, but it's sure, like, getting to play with our friends like Seven Sinners, and going out and see people doing other types of music. Like, why would you cheat yourself from that? It's just, I don't know. And then
example.
Even the just getting to meet other creators.
Yeah.
I've found some of the best people I've had interactions with are almost always centered around live music.
Right. And you could still learn a lot from people in other parts of the genre or other genres. And maybe there's something that creates some influence in your music that makes you unique, that came from somewhere you would have never expected.
Absolutely. And especially with some of the touring we've been doing in some of the smaller areas, there's not a lot of similar sounding bands or other people to play with us. So we have had the opportunity to do shows with rappers, with hip hop groups, with just completely different genres, or like somewhat similar genres that aren't really similar. And like, it's so nice to just get to meet all the people and get to experience the music together.
Well, like, I just thought of too, when you're talking about that, when Lady Gaga performed with Metallica, and I was like, oh my God, what a badass she is. She's a badass metalhead, and it was right after she did something with Tony Bennett. So it's like, I had a whole different respect for her because she's so versatile, and she doesn't even care. She doesn't even care what genre or whatever. And I mean, like, I remember being in awe of her when she was doing that performance with Metallica. I'm like, who knew? But that's what's cool.
I mean, bringing up Gaga is probably one of the less obvious influences that goes into the picture.
We definitely listen to Lady Gaga. We actually, the only cover that we have right now is a Lady Gaga cover.
Nice. Which one?
Applause.
Nice. Well, she's like super talented. I think she's goth, personally. Like,
she's just an artist. She's
exactly.
Just like, she's all art.
And I feel like we resonate with that too, where it's like, yeah, you got, like, if you can only pick one, you'll call her pop. But like, and if you have to pick one, you'll call us metal. But when you really start peeling back the layers, you see that there's more than just that. There's a whole bunch of layers to what makes Lady Gaga what Lady Gaga is. And I only could hope that I could be part of creating something that has something like that, that's that interesting and well done.
What's cool about her too is, so I interviewed a band last year at one of the festivals that was like a very extreme metal band. And two of the members of the band, they actually work for Gaga. Okay. And they play for Gaga. And
that doesn't surprise me.
And they talked about her like in the best way possible. And they were like, yeah, she's the one that encouraged us to do this. And for that, I have mad respect, because there's so many other artists out there that wouldn't do that. Perfect example of the opposite. That is Metallica with Jason Newsted, because that's why he left the band. He wanted to do some side stuff to explore his own creativity that had nothing to do with Metallica. And James and Lars weren't for it, you know, and now they realize, like, if you listen to James and Lars now, they realize how stupid they were, that they should have let him have that outlet, you know, and it didn't affect Metallica. That's what they were afraid of. It would affect Metallica, but it doesn't affect. And I think it has the exact opposite, because these two guys, man, they would do anything for Gaga just because of that, because she encouraged them.
Yeah, I look at that even with our bandmates. It's very, very similar where it's like there's no way when you're doing a band, and especially when you're grinding and putting your all into it at the starting levels, you always worry that something's going to go sideways with your project. But at the same time, the benefit that you see from musicians getting to go and do things with other musicians, they bring it back, but like just naturally, right?
Yeah.
Our drummer Null plays in the band Technosis that we'll be touring with, and he also has an awesome band called the Vertebreakers, and our bassist plays with another band called Phoebe the Phoebe. So we do have members that work on other projects. I've been just kind of the one that, just because I've been doing so much of the behind the scenes stuff with the band, and me and Mel, it's the Fixer has had to kind of become our like,
It's our baby.
Yeah, we can't.
Right.
We just don't have the time allotment to do other things. So it's nice to see what those two are bringing to the table, because them playing with other musicians is almost, you know, it's not the same as me actively going and playing with somebody else, but they're still bringing cool concepts that have come from their other bandmates that I respect immensely.
And they're more than happy to play with you because you're allowing them that creative outlet that they may not have in your band. So that's
and
cool.
I've been the multi-band guy, and you know, I know what it's like to have a band lead making it, you know, miserable for you to work on exploring. And and I know how much I appreciated when we just kind of, like, you know, set these things aside, listen to each other, what we wanted and why, and how we made it work, rather than getting hung up on what may not even be an issue.
Right. And I think all artists need to experiment and explore, period. I think that's 100% part of being an artist.
Yeah. If you can't actively be participating in it, like, it's important to just keep yourself somehow dabbling in other things. Like, to me, when I get to go and say work on recording with another band, doing a recording for them, I feel like that's always such a rewarding experience on multiple levels. It just be able to see somebody else's process. It scratches that itch a little bit where I'm not having multiple projects that I'm working on.
No doubt. And how did you guys finally find each other? Because it sounds like, based on what you said earlier, that your universes were bound to collide. You know, you just didn't know it yet.
Yeah. We have I was doing a Evanescence tribute. So I was living out my dream of doing some Amy Lee covers.
And our drummer at the time saw Melodonna performing the Evanescence covers. And we actually at the same time had started as a tribute group as well. We were doing Rob Zombie tributes, and then later changed to doing a Rammstein tribute with a very small lineup change. So after we had done the two tribute bands, we decided we wanted to start doing some original music and try maybe doing something, you know, that's kind of at least influenced in being the all-encompassing musical project that has some theatrics, has the visuals put with it, on the dark lean, but something in that realm with original music. And our singer from those bands was actually a very gifted lead guitar player. So he had moved into the lead guitar position in the Fixer, and then we started looking for a singer. We did try 2 other people before that were, wonderful people to work with. It just wasn't quite right. But then once we found Mel, it kind of solidified. The band's gone through a lot of changes since then, but the band really kind of really took its shape once Mel and I started working together.
Yeah. Now you have your sound.
Yeah.
And I have to say how brave you are to do Evanescence tributes, because every singer I know is afraid to sing anything Amy Lee.
I learned how to sing with Evanescence covers because they were one of the only things that I was interested in doing that my music teachers would let me do because it was close enough to classical.
Right.
I'm like, she's a classically trained singer. Like,
right.
Can we do this?
Yeah. And I think for those that don't know, like, she is just such an unbelievable talent. That's why I said what I did, because if you can sing her stuff, you can pretty much sing anything, I think.
I mean, Evanescence is a hard one to knock at. I know I hear every now and then in interviews, Amy Lee speaking not as highly of the Fallen record, but like I look at that as like being one of the like classic albums of that generation. Like it's like to me it's like, but I get it as an artist too. Like as soon as you're creating new stuff, regardless of how other people receive it, you're probably creating that art for a reason.
Yeah.
So like I get it, but at the same time, like I think of like Bring Me to Life and even Going Under and My Immortal as like
that's the best ever, My Immortal. Like
like those are like defining songs of
that was my first Evanescence song.
And that one is a hard one to sing for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's true, though. I think a lot of times artists, they don't want to be defined by that one moment that most people define. Like the people that aren't true Evanescence fans, that's what they define Evanescence as. Bring Me to Life, So I get that part of it. It's interesting, too, as you grow as an artist and learn your craft more and kind of figure out who you are as an artist. I could see also, again, where that kind of stuff would be like, well, that wasn't really where I was going. Yeah. This is where I wanted to go, but it was a moment in time, type of thing, opposed to what people want to earmark them
totally
as.
Totally valid. Like we feel it too when like now as we've had new music coming into our live set, it gets harder to pick set lists because there's songs that we know from playing for a while that there's some songs that people will come and want to hear. But you want to showcase where your progression is and where your heart currently is.
Yeah.
But you don't want to cheat somebody of
hearing
what they've
their
connected
song.
to.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, like the example I think of most is the band I Prevail. And a couple of festivals ago, we're like, okay, I guess we're going to play this song. Everybody wants us to play, and it's the Taylor Swift cover, which most people that don't know I Prevail, they know them by that song. And you could tell by the attitude was like,
you're just not into it anymore.
Fuck, why did we ever cover this song? Because now we have to sing it forever, type of thing, And they want to be known by other things, especially, like you said, as you're writing new music, you want that music to get out there because that's who you are right then and there as an artist.
Yeah. But you sometimes have to step back and see a grander picture than just yourself.
Yeah.
And it's, that is a challenging thing to do when you're an artist and you're very attached to your music. But it's I feel like I don't know. I just don't understand why you wouldn't want to relish in the fact that somebody is getting so much out of something you created.
Right.
It's just to me, that's the magic of music. The music is greater than what our individual project is, and what music can do is the real magic. So if you're able to do something that really creates that magic, to me, it's like, even though understanding the difficulties in the set order, like, we're just grateful that we have songs that people will come out and actually sing along the words to at shows.
Yeah, that's one of the
That's
best
gotta be
feelings ever, is seeing someone mouth the words to your song. Like, what do you mean you know the words to my song?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
like, it's got to be the best feeling ever when you see people singing your song.
Is.
You know,
we actually had one person do the choreographed dance from one of our music videos, like, in the audience. I was like, "Oh my god, you're doing the choreography with me!"
Wow, that's pretty
to
cool.
learn to go through and learn the choreography from a music video is just like, I can't imagine attempting to do that.
I know.
Personally, that sounds so hard.
I know, that's so badass. And then, or like, at Aftershock, which I just did, Bring Me the Horizon headline, and they brought somebody on stage to sing a whole song, like, just random from the crowd, and this dude did it like perfect, and Ali just sat back there like, you know, he was just sitting there admiring while the dude sang the whole song on stage.
Oh my God, that's like my Evanescence fantasy.
Right? You know, so I mean, it's I think to Ali that was like, wow, how cool is this, that somebody actually knows my song so well that I don't even have to help. I can just sit here and watch. You know? So I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, when you can see something like that, and like, to me, it's just being able to see somebody get that much joy and know that experience of coming to the show and having something like that, whatever kind of moment it is, and I know that that's going to make their existence around them feel better, extending past the show. That's the goal. That's like why music should be happening. That's why live music is important and special.
1,000,000%. So tell everybody how they reach out to you guys on socials, check out your music, check out your tour dates, merch, everything.
So if you want to check us out online, on most platforms, we are The Fixer Canada, aside from Facebook, where we are The Fixer Band. And definitely head on over. Feel free to reach out to us. We love getting to interact with people, hear what you think about what we're doing. Make sure you come and check out the remaining tour dates on our Ugly Knots tour. We have dates between Ontario and Alberta in Canada. And make sure you stay tuned to our socials, even post-tour, because our plans are to, once we get home, start wrapping up the writing that we've been doing over the last year or two, and actually get to working on another full-length album.
Can't wait. And you guys are badass, and everybody needs to check you out. I don't care where they are from in the world. They need to go to Canada and check you out. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we do appreciate that. We have had some love coming from so many different corners of the world. When we first started the band, we wouldn't have dreamed to have had the people reaching out to us as excited about us, you know, whether it be in Europe or South Africa, or, you know,
Mexico,
even the US, to us being, you know, folks that have been very much like, you know, hanging around in our northern Ontario region for so many years, that our music would actually travel as far as it did.
That's way cool.
Of course, thank you to you for spending the time talking to us
and showing us.
My pleasure.
And it's appreciated you introducing us to maybe some new listeners that maybe haven't heard of us yet.
Absolutely, and they should. Are any of your shows on this upcoming tour near Calgary? I don't remember.
We actually just had our Calgary show. The venue decided because it's Thanksgiving Monday that they did not want to open. So we
thought we had a show in Calgary. We will be in Calgary. So if you have a show for us to play, let us know.
Yeah, I have somebody that is a co-host of mine on my live show. That's where she is. So I'm gonna have her look out for you, but I'm gonna have her go to one of your shows since she represents.
If she doesn't and is willing to make the trip down next Tuesday, we will be playing in Lethbridge, Alberta, which I think is about 2 hours. I think that's the closest. And in
Canada, 2 hours is nothing.
Exactly. That's just going to lunch.
Yeah.
We're also playing in Edmonton on the Sunday of the Thanksgiving long weekend, and we're playing with a really awesome band there called Darkened Skies, as well as another really cool band called Ashenmire.
Nice.
So that show too is totally worth the trip up, even beyond us. I would travel the miles just to go see the two locals from Edmonton.
And I know she's gone to shows in Edmonton before, so I'll definitely tell her about that one too. So cool. You guys rock, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thanks for having us on the Adventures of Pipeman.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.